for those of you guys who did not watch the top 16 where he ran through Chemo, is going to be running Thundurus Incarnate, Cresselia, Rhyperior, Salamence, Heatran, and Sylveon. Crawdaunt going to be going ahead and running Politoed, Ludicolo, Salamence, Thundurus Incarnate, Aegislash, and Terrakion. So
Salamence is for both teams. We know that Harrison doesn't actually carry a Dragon move on his Salamence. If Mark has one on his Salamence, it may put him at a disadvantage, but you know, big returns KO Salamences too. Rain will be helpful also. The Ludicolo Ice Beams are always a threat for Salamence. It'll probably encourage Harrison to try to put up Trick Room, but Rhyperior is not going to do well against the Rain either.
Right. Interesting thing to note, Crow's previous opponent was Star Metroid, and Crawdaunt and Star Metroid are really good friends. I believe they actually running a similar team, so I believe Crow actually knows what he's running already.
Which should make it much easier for Crow.
Unless Crawdaunt also knows what Harrison's running to possibly try to counter.
Right, which you'd expect he would. It's definitely not uncommon for players to talk about each other's teams and find out what's going on.
We see Thundurus Incarnate and Aegislash out on Mark's side, and Salamence and Cresselia out on Crow's side. What do you think so far, Len?
Well, I think the Aegislash is in a great spot here. It's threatened a little bit by Earthquake, but meanwhile it can put big damage on the Cresselia. Taunt can come down on the Cresselia to prevent a possible Trick Room. If a Trick Room does go up, Aegislash is still slow and bulky enough. It's not into the world. And we know that Chemo's Thundurus does not have hidden power, which would make things more difficult for Chemo. This Thundurus may have hidden power, and that would make this matchup even better for him.
Wait, try to keep players on this side. Try to keep players on this side. Good job. We do see the Ice Beam from Cresselia hit that Thundurus for a little bit of damage and gets the freeze. So, good freeze right there for Aegislash. Aegislash now going to go ahead and go for this Shadow Ball. Going to hit that Cresselia for a good amount of damage. Unfortunately, that Thundurus got frozen, though, for Mark's side. Yeah,
definitely unfortunate. You just saw just how much that Life Orb Shadow Ball can do to Cresselia. Not many things can cleanly 2-hit KO Cresselia. That looks like it would have, even with a Citrus Berry. So, huge damage coming out on the field. But the freeze really dampens any, however Mark is feeling about getting that.
Salamence does go Mega right now, and Aegislash has to be careful because if it doesn't protect itself, it could be in problem. But Salamence goes for the Earthquake. That's going to be able to pick up the knockout on Aegislash.
Yeah, I'm surprised Mark fell into this. I would knew that the Salamence had Earthquake. Earthquake's not uncommon, and probably found out previously that Harrison was carrying Earthquake. So I guess he was predicting Salamence to do something else this turn, and it didn't work out. Now Trick Room's up, Aegislash is down, Thundurus is frozen. Everything's looking good for Harrison.
We do see Politoed coming in and bring in the Rain.
Here the item Politoed is going to be really important. If that's a Scarf Politoed, this is not a good position. But if it's not, it's threatening Salamence with an Ice Beam and probably has something like a Citrus to be pretty bulky. Could be in a pretty good spot. But of course, as long as the Thundurus is sitting there frozen, things are going to be tough.
That's true. Would have liked to see Thundurus thaw out, but now he's just going to switch out.
Yeah, sometimes you have to give up on the thaw. It's actually pretty unlikely that a Pokemon thaws once it's frozen. And playing 2-on-1 on the hope that your frozen Pokemon eventually thaws is a good way to lose a game. And so Mark realizing that he needs to get two functioning Pokemon back on the field. And not to mention get that Intimidate that doesn't save the Politoed. I thought it was going to.
In other news, the other semifinal is actually going to be Wesley and Riley. Anyway, Salamence comes in, going to fire off the Intimidate as... what happened to Politoed? Politoed got knocked out.
Politoed did. So Politoed wasn't very bulky, outsped Salamence, and so undersped it in Trick Room, meaning it probably is a Scarf Politoed, which is going to make this match a lot harder than it would have been.
Right. I think right now Mark needs to find some good adjustments. I mean, of course, the Thundurus Freeze is huge. I mean, that's an unfortunate thing to always see. You know, one of your Pokemon get frozen and unable to thaw out in 2 turns. I mean, that's just 2 turns dead.
Yeah,
in the water.
And now Ice Beam from Cress is threatening this Pokemon huge. Not often you see Cress as such a threatening offensive Pokemon, but right now it definitely is. And the other Salamence Mega Evolves.
Thundurus again, frozen solid, unfortunate. Just unfortunate, but Rhyperior coming in there, Rhyperior has such high defense that I don't think it's going to matter whatever Mark does. Salamence is not going to be able to knock out that Rhyperior, and Rhyperior is going to get a free chance to...
Yeah, I'm surprised Harrison Ice Beamed the Thundurus there. It was a good chance to Ice Beam the Salamence and get good damage on it, and just let the frozen Thundurus sit there. But I guess he predicted a Salamence Protect. Now Rhyperior's on the field threatening huge rock slides too in these last couple turns of Trick Room.
That's right. Unfortunately, Mark needs to go back to the drawing board. I'm sure he's already back to the drawing board now, trying to figure out where he went wrong. I mean,
well, you can point to one thing in particular, and that's the freeze.
The freeze, right?
And then the Earthquake, allowing the Earthquake on Aegislash. It was two huge things in the first two turns that really took this game out of his hands. Wasn't much he could do to come back after that.
And I think Harrison is at the chance for the 4-0.
So I think the reason it didn't protect, it was trying to prevent the Trick Room. It was trying to Shadow Ball faster to KO the crest before it could Trick Room.
Right.
And it didn't pay off because of the Earthquake.
Right.
Mark's going to figure out a different way to prevent Trick Room. And that freeze may have been the reason he had to try that. If he has Taunt on Thundurus...
Maybe that was a try for a Taunt on Thundurus. Maybe it was Swag. Oh, no, it wasn't a... Was it a Taunt? It wasn't a Taunt. Because he froze. Or was that a switch?
No, it was in, but on turn 2, he could have tried to Taunt if he hadn't been frozen. Instead, he didn't trust himself to defrost and taunt, so he went for the Shadow Ball to prevent Trick Room instead. It didn't work. Yeah, I think Mark probably still needs to make some adjustments. I'm not sure how useful Politoed is, especially if he's not even going to bring Ludicolo. Having it Scarfed, knowing there's Trick Rooms there, it's good against Rhyperior and Heatran, but is not bulky enough to stand up to those helping hand things like Drill Run and Return are going to take it out. I'm not sure what I would recommend bringing instead, but it does seem like Ludicolo would be pretty useful. Weakness to flying is bad, but if Politoed can't take a return anyway, it doesn't make much difference. And having Giga Drain and the ability to be fast if necessary, if he can prevent the Trick Room, could be really helpful.
Right, guys, going to team preview again, off screen. Crow's team, Thundurus Incarnate, Sylveon, Cresselia, Heatran, Rhyperior, and Salamence. Crawdaunt going to be running Politoed, Ludicolo, Salamence, Thundurus Incarnate, Terrakion, and Aegislash. Again, Aegislash needs to stay around, in my opinion, to help deal with that Cresselia. Can also do some damage to that Salamence, staying in shield form and then going for the attack later on.
Yeah, I think Aegislash is going to be key. But of course, not only does he have to worry about the Earthquake from Salamence, he has to worry about Drill Run from Rhyperior. Rhyperior seems like an odd choice to bring, knowing it's against rain, but it's so useful against Aegislash and Terrakion both that I would expect Harrison still is thinking about bringing it.
All right, now guys, going into the leads, Salamence and Sylveon out for Crow side, and Aegislash and Thundurus out for Crawdaunt side. So, good news for Mark is that Thundurus cannot be frozen on this turn.
Nope, no Ice Beams. Unlikely there's a Tri-Attack anywhere or anything.
Yeah.
So no freezes. Does have to worry about this.
Actually, Sylveon might get Nature Power, which turns into Tri-Attack.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's a possibility. It's not 100% out of the picture just yet that Thundurus will not be frozen.
We have seen the entire moveset of the Sylveon in the other matches we watched. No Nature Power, but...
Yeah, I'm just saying, there is a chance.
Salamence doesn't Mega Evolve, just protects here. Interesting. If he's
Sylveon
trying to stay slower.
Probably maybe seeing what's going to happen and seeing if he needs to stay
in case he wants to intimidate later.
Right, as Aegislash goes into Blade Form, and that is actually a very smart move right there from Harrison. I mean, draw that Aegislash out into Blade Form.
Just redo turn 1 without the Protect option, but now with Aegislash in Blade Form, and he's happy with that.
Now the pressure is all on Mark on how he's going to deal with it. I mean, Thundurus versus Salamence and Sylveon, that's risky, you know?
The plug-in why 3DS is kind of blinking right now?
Yeah, so Aegislash does take the chance to go back into shield form, forcing the protect. Harrison's protects force the protect from Mark.
Thunderous goes for the swagger.
So we saw Chemo go to this. Sometimes you just feel like you need to swagger everything.
Yeah.
And there's this many special attackers, and you're worried about Trick Room, and we'll see if it pays off better than it did for Chemo.
Sylveon does hit itself in confusion, so that's a good play right there from Mark, as now Aegislash can hit that Sylveon or Cresselia, really whatever it wants to. If he really wants to prevent Trick Room from coming up, it's pretty easy, just taunt. If it has taunt.
Taunt and Shadow Ball.
Right.
Put some damage on the field, stop the Trick Room, stop Toxic, stop whatever else this, make it just Ice Beam, and hope that you don't get froze.
Thunderous does go for the taunt on the Cresselia, and Aegislash, is it going to go for that Sylveon? I would like to see that. Sylveon does hit itself in confusion again. So is Aegislash going to go for the Cresselia, or is it going to go for that Sylveon? I definitely prefer to see it hit that Sylveon.
Yeah, I think...
Oh, it goes for the Shadow Ball.
Yeah, I think it's good to get rid of the Cresselia. It's, you don't want Trick Room going up in this game, and you can't always rely on taunt. We saw, even when Chemo was able to get Cresselia taunted or swaggered, a couple switches later, and Cresselia was threatening the Trick Room again. Just getting rid of it's the permanent way to stop Trick Room. I like that decision, and leave the confused Sylveon. If it does get a Hyper Voice off, it's going to damage Thunderous a lot, but not Aegislash that much, and it will, it'll be damage you can deal with. And it hasn't gotten an attack off yet.
And Thunderous going to go for the Thunder Wave, going to try to going to slow down that Sylveon.
I don't like that.
You don't like that?
No, because now the Sylveon, you're assuming Trick Room never goes up. The Sylveon's slower than the Aegislash. Anything it does will be against Sword Form Aegislash now. If it gets that hidden power off, or even just a Hyper Voice, will do a lot more against the Sword than it would have against the Shield. I know he's trying to keep it from attacking, but there the speed drop is
Sylveon cannot move. Sylveon cannot move, so
it pays off.
Yeah, so that pays off right there as Cresselia goes for the Shadow Ball onto Cresselia and picks up the knockout right there. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, because Aegislash didn't take the chance to go back into shield form at all. If that was a hidden power coming towards Aegislash, it was going to knock it out before it could knock out Cresselia, and so the Paralyze actually saved it. You got to rely on Swagger and Thunder Wave sometimes.
In comes the Rhyperior.
But with no Trick Room. But still with Solid Rock and Weakness Policy.
There's still two Pokemon in back that we haven't seen from Mark's side yet, so there is going to be no Trick Room for the rest of the game, and Rhyperior, I feel like, is a Pokemon that kind of relies on Trick Room to operate fully functionally.
But it can still respond with KO. It's not going to sweep Mark's team without Trick Room, but if he Shadow Balls and it Drill Runs back, that's a KO. Or if he Hidden Powers and it Rock Slides back, that's a KO. It's still probably going to get a KO at some point in this game, even after this Intimidate.
Going to go into Salamence, going to go for the Intimidate onto the Sylveon and the Rhyperior. Rhyperior, of course, can easily just get that back with a well-timed Weakness Policy activation. Aegislash is going to go for the King Shield. Does Joe Run make contact?
I'm not sure, but I think he just switched into a Hyper Voice.
Salamence avoids that. Sylveon goes for the Hidden Power into Aegislash, so good.
That could have very easily been a Drill Run to Aegislash and a Hyper Voice. I think Mark was very fortunate he just didn't just lose his Salamence and switch in.
Right.
And the Rock Slide also should have been punishing towards the switch and missed instead. That was a very risky switch in. He wanted the Intimidate, but put a lot on the line to get it and escaped unscathed just by pure fortune. Now with Aegislash back in shield form, it still has to deal with what I was talking about, where we saw the Hidden Power aim towards Aegislash. If it Flash Cannon Sylveon doesn't get the KO, the Hidden Power will be a response because it'll hit the Sword form.
Yeah, now the question is Salamence going to target down... I mean, Salamence is probably going to return or Double Edge into Sylveon, I believe, but Sylveon's going to protect itself here.
I think Double Edge will likely get the KO, and that's what it's going to go after. This is a Flash Cannon towards Aegislash, or towards Rhyperior.
That would be unfortunate. Goes for the Flash Cannon, going to target down that Rhyperior, going to activate Weakness Policy. Oh, picks up the knockout. Oh. Okay.
We didn't expect that. Obviously very offensive Aegislash, which is how much he was doing Cresselia, but really, with Solid Rock, Rhyperior's special defense isn't that great, but with Solid Rock I expected that to survive. This game gets much easier for Mark knowing that it doesn't.
It's 4-on-3 right now? 4-on-2 right now.
4-on-2 right now. Double Edge is going to get the KO on Sylveon unless it goes for a double protect through paralysis, and he gets it. And so that would make it 4-on-1 before. And so we've already talked about how Crow Salamence does not have a dragon move. It can't respond and when it KO the the Salamence on Mark's side. You know, I think Mark's in a really good position here.
Right. I mean, when you're up 4-2, you still have to keep it up. You know, you can't just throw it away. I've seen people throw away.
There's still ways you can mess this up. If he loses Aegislash to Earthquake here, and Sylveon does get the double protect, things start getting nicer. And the Intimidate probably does bring Sylveon out of double edge KO range. But anything extra along with that will get the KO.
And Salamence going to go ahead and protect itself this turn. I would not be surprised to see Aegislash go into Blade or Shield form again, and it does. So
yeah, so going into Shield form here was why he did that double protect, but he gave up a lot to do it. Sylveon has protect back as an option. Salamence is faster now. I'm not sure how much speed Harrison runs, but he also got a little bit of earthquake damage on Sylveon. Probably puts it in double edge KO range.
Right. Right now,
and that changes the game for sure.
I think Mark just is trying to find out how to seal this game without revealing too much information for Harrison to take home for Game 3, right? I mean, Salamence goes for a double edge onto the Sylveon here. Going to be able to pick up the knockout. Yes, it does. And, you know, Aegislash can easily go for a Shadow Ball or a Flash Cannon onto that Salamence. Both are going to do about the same amount of damage. And
Salamence does have a Dragon move. I thought we'd seen all 4 moves from Salamence already. I must have been mistaken. It doesn't really change the game much from here. Is, you know, even up down 3-1, Salamence isn't going to be able to come back from this game.
Right, going to take a chunk from this attack coming from Aegislash. So, and Mark still has 2 more Pokemon in the back.
Yeah.
And does a lot of damage to the Salamence here. And I personally would just send in Thunders because we've already seen Thunders. You know, Salamence, it looks like it's in Thunderbolt range. And he has to pick one to knock out.
Yeah, he can only Earthquake or return Double Edge. Neither one will get the KO on Thundurus at -2 special attack. Thundurus will get a Thunderbolt KO. There's really not much left to this game. It could be a one-on-one between Thundurus and Salamence, and Thundurus would win.
Gonna try to see if he can draw any sort of information. Maybe a hidden power ice. I don't know, but yeah, there's no point in revealing that if you do have it.
Just keep using what you've used already. You don't need to let Harrison know what that 4th move is on Thundurus. Don't need to let Harrison know what the 4th move is on Aegislash. Just let something get knocked out and end the game.
And Aegislash gets knocked out from the Earthquake from Salamence, as Thunderbolt going to be able to pick up the knockout on Salamence. So that's good information for Mark to know. You know, later on in Game 3, if it comes down to a one-on-one with Salamence at that health, that Thunderbolt will be able to knock it out. It's not too bulky of a Salamence.
So that's the game we saw what can happen when Aegislash doesn't go down to an early Earthquake. That's always still going to be a risk, something that's going to have to worry about. I mean, he could have lost Aegislash even after it had been very potent, before it had done quite as much as it ended up doing with one hit killing Rhyperior, to that turn where Sylveon fully paralyzed. I think that was an HP ground headed towards KO on Aegislash. He's got to avoid those kind of cheap KOs onto Sword Form Aegislash, because he can see how it's his best answer to Cresselia, it's his best answer to Rhyperior. It's a great answer to Salamence when it can stay in shield form. So he's going to have to try to keep it alive. But if he can deny Trick Room like that again, he's got a good shot at winning this 3rd game.
Right, definitely has to deny Trick Room. I mean, Rhyperior is dead in the water, and it's also good information to know that that Flash Cannon should be able to knock out that Rhyperior.
Yeah, that was completely unexpected to me, but knowing that's the case now opens up a lot of things. Makes you even want to resist Trick Room more, because you can... It's not like I was talking about where resisting Trick Room keeps Rhyperior from sweeping you, but allows it a response KO. If you can just outspeed and one-hit KO the Rhyperior, huge advantage. Now, I'm curious if Harrison even brings Rhyperior now, knowing that, though. With 2 Rain Pokemon, the Life Orb Flash Cannon that can KO it, he may just opt to not bring it. Bring something like Heatran instead, as a second answer to that Aegislash. If he knows that Mark's not going to bring Politoed, then Heat Wave is a much better answer to Aegislash than it otherwise would have been. Other options, he hasn't been bringing his Thundurus every game. He brought it Game 1, but didn't bring it Game 2. It could be useful, something that isn't as threatened by Aegislash immediately. right, here come the leads. Thunderous and Polytoad for Mark's side, and Heatran and Cresselia for Harrison's side. So we can see that Rain is coming on into this game. Didn't bring it at all in Game 2 and leads it in Game 1.
That's one of the first things that you don't enjoy seeing when you bring a Heatran to a battle. Rain.
No, this is a great position. He can taunt and throw a water move at Heatran, and Harrison doesn't really have any of that great switch-ins. If he switches in Salamence as a resist, it's already in not a great position. Obviously, you can't switch in something like Rhyperior or Sylveon would take a good chunk too.
And Thunderous goes for the taunt. I wouldn't be surprised to see just Cresselia going straight on the offensive because he knows something's coming, Ooh, goes for the Scald onto Cresselia. And that does a little bit of chip damage as Cresselia goes for the Ice Beam. Is there a freeze? Thunderous hangs on, does not get frozen. So still really good position for Mark in my opinion.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get that burn, but you can't ask for everything. And that chip damage doesn't mean much, but he got the prediction right. Did add a little bit of damage, gave himself that chance for the burn that would have been huge. Now he probably can punish the Heatran switch because it will have to. Not going to risk a double protect to lose Heatran now, I don't think.
And Thunder's going to go for the Swagger. Where's it going to go? Going to target down the Cresselia. Does not want Cresselia to get any sort of Ice Beams off or... Yeah, Ice Beams is its only attacking.
Yeah, Ice Beam's the only thing it can do.
Any possible freeze. Polytoad goes for the Scald here. Going to target down that Heatran most likely. And that picks up... Ooh,
he doesn't pick up the KO.
Heatran hangs on, and that means Heatran's going to be able to make a move.
But it's not going to be able to do much. It's an Earth Power or Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, it's all resisted stuff. But in the rain, too, I think Thunder's actually gained health this turn.
I think that's actually a better position for Mark this turn. No burns, activating that Citrus Berry. I mean, you won't have the Citrus Berry later on, but you end the turn now in way better position. So Harrison needs to find a way to get out of this right now, as Thunderwave going to target down that Cresselia.
He almost looks content to sack both of these Pokemon. That's a bold decision to make in the Game 3, but it seems to be what he's headed towards.
As Polytoad going to go ahead and go for the Scald, pick up the knockout on Heatran, and Cresselia most likely not going to move this turn.
I almost would have liked to see the Scald on not Thunderwave, Thunderbolt to get the KO on Heatran and try the Scald
for a burn,
because I think burn is going to be a lot of useful damage. But and also Scald would have probably put it even without the burn into Shadow Ball KO range. I'm not sure if it is right now or not.
I think it might be depending on the roll. One more Scald would definitely do it. But you want to get that.
You want it for sure. I think he's got to protect Thunderous now. He's not going to be able to KO this Cresselia fast enough to KO it before it runs out of taunt. And if he allows a Trick Room, it can still be really bad. Now that, especially this game, that he has the Scarf Polytoad with him. Polytoad is to come out to reset. It doesn't want to keep scalding because it wants to be able to Ice Beam that Salamence.
And going to go straight into his own Salamence, possibly expecting a double edge, right? That's what Harrison's running?
Right.
Or is he running
return? Harrison's return. Mark is double edge.
And we do see Harrison's go Mega. Remember, we did see the Dragon move last game.
So Thunderous didn't switch out here. It may go down.
Thunderous goes for the taunt. That's safe. That's safe. I like that. As Salamence goes straight for the return. After that, Intimidate does a lot of damage. And Cresselia did try to get that Trick Room, so good move right there from Mark to stay in.
Yeah, lost a lot of Salamence health, but Trick Room's gone for a long time now. Scarf Polytoad's going to be able to come back in and threaten Salamence heavily. We haven't seen Aegislash yet. We've talked about how it's the most important Pokemon for Mark. He didn't lead it this game. He's saving it to clean the game up, I think. Especially knowing that it KOs Rhyperior. If Rhyperior is the last one, Aegislash will be great to have at the end.
Salamence going to switch out. What's going to come in right here? It's going to be the Rhyperior. So, Rhyperior doesn't mind facing off against both these Pokemon right now, but, there's still Polytoad in the back. Polytoad brings the rain, and I think with the rain, it should be able to knock out that Rhyperior.
Yeah, if that Flash Cannon does, the Scald should too, I think.
Salamence going to go for the double edge, targeting down that Cresselia. That's the smart move.
Yeah, get rid of it now. I think he wins this game if he stops Trick Room from ever going up.
And actually, I think that's better for Mark, as now he gets to send in Polytoad if he really wanted to.
If this is a Thunderbolt towards Cresselia, I think it'll be knocked out.
Oh, it does go for the Cresselia. Does it? Is it enough to pick up the knockout? Cresselia does get knocked out, and it's going to be Salamence versus Rhyperior. Or Salamence and Rhyperior versus Thunderous and whatever Mark decides to switch in.
Yeah, I actually think I'd like to see Aegislash here. Polytoad can KO one or the other, but once it's locked, it won't be able to switch and KO the other one.
Right.
Aegislash, if you can just pick up the KO on Rhyperior, makes the end of this game really easy.
The question is, Rhyperior, it depends on how it's trained. We could have seen a high damage roll on that Flash Cannon last time.
He could have. You'd hate for Mark to get overconfident because of that KO last time and just barely miss it and put himself in a bad position this game. I think he's going to try to Thunder Wave the Salamence most likely.
That would be. I still would think that's safe. I mean, what else is Thundurus going to do in this situation?
Yeah, it depends on. He knows probably better than us how much he expects that Ice Beam to do to Salamence. If he knows he doesn't have a very offensive Polytoad, he may need to get a Thunderbolt on to make sure that that Ice Beam KOs.
Right. So really tough position right now for Crow. This turn is going to be critical.
But it also could be a turning point. This game is not over by any means. If Aegislash goes down, if Rhyperior protects and a good amount of damage goes on Aegislash or KOs Thundurus, it's all could switch. But
that's right.
Rhyperior didn't protect.
Protects itself. Oh, cannot. Salamence gets paralyzed and cannot move this turn. Aegislash going to go into Blade form. Is this going to be enough to knock out this Rhyperior? Goes for the Flash Cannon. Is it going to be enough here?
Is it targeting? It is.
And it picks up knock on Rhyperior again, and that should do it.
Yeah, that should be the game. Before the Salamence attacks again, it's going to take a Thunderbolt and a Shadow Ball, and then have to deal with a Scarf Polytoad coming in. There's no way to beat that. There's no amount of luck you can hope for. 300% accurate attacks coming at you. The game's over.
Right. I mean, right now, Mark's in victory formation, really. He's just... There's no point in protecting, you know? Just go all out, just start attacking. Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, throw everything you can at Salamence.
He doesn't have to bring in the Scarf Polytoad.
And Mark H. Crawdaunt from Canada moves on to the finals, where he awaits the winner of Riley and Wesley.
So Crow made it